Ah, the Renaissance. Also, hello there. This is DrIzixs with a short little, I guess, sort of strategy video. You know, I've not really done one of these before, so let's get to it. So, with the EU4, Europa Universalis for 1.18 update 118, we have this thing called institutions. Now, institutions are like feudalism and the Renaissance and other things. And look at your technology tab to learn a little bit more about these and when they're likely to pop up, like 1550 for the printing press, global trade in 1600, manufacturing 1650, enlightenment in 1700, and of course colonialism in 1500, and in 1450s good old Renaissance. Now the Renaissance starts in Europe, which if you're playing in the Far East, you don't really know exists. It's a mystical land that people have heard about, but really don't know much about. So you got some problems there as far as the embracing the Renaissance here. So this changes everything. Yeah, so whatever there. Before I do, I should probably do this real quick. And 200 just to help the demonstration here. So for each year that you don't embrace an institution, you get a 1+1 tech cost increase, which early on isn't bad. It's like, oh, it's like 20 years without it, and I've been facing down 20% tech cost increase. It's like pre-westernization in previous versions of the game. Yeah, it's not so bad. But when it starts getting to be 50, that can be very, very painful. And what more, some of the institutions like the Renaissance, they really kind of like to spread slowly. So let's go and look at this here. So here, in the heart of my empire here, is Ming, I get 0% spread. No increase of Renaissance here. Well, it's not present. It's not going to be present. I basically need to have land that is next to good old Europe in order that, specifically parts of Europe that have Renaissance. And that's not going to happen for a while. But there is an alternative way to get it, which is what I'm going to go into today. So, if you have the Common Sense DLC, you have the ability to develop your provinces. And in those regards, this combines with the institutions to do something kind of amazing. Let's go and check out our little province here, Fengyang. This is one I decided to make a good use of. And in my sort of testing here, so let's go ahead and reuse it. For each time you develop your province, you get an increase in the earliest institution that you have not embraced. So if I were to develop this by one level here, I'll get a +1 Renaissance in this province. So let's go ahead and click this, and now I have 1%. If I can actually update my map real quick. Maybe it's just not showing up. Weird. Okay. Never mind. And so I got the +1. Now this increase, when you increase your development, increases by in relation to the development you have. So increasing again gives me 1.116. Ta-da! 216 now. And if I do it again, 1.33. 1.5, and so on. And so if I keep developing, I start generating Renaissance here in the middle of China in 1450s. Thousands of miles away from Europe. It's kind of fantastic. Now there is, of course, the downside that you end up using a lot of monarch points. Effectively like a tech and a half for each tech worth. But once you get to the early 30s, it's really moving now. I get 5.5 increase here just by developing ones. Sure, it costs me 100 monarch points, but if I'm facing down high-tech penalties where it's like, well, if I had Renaissance, it would cost me 600, but right now it's costing me 900, it might actually be worth it to just develop a province like this in order to get the institution. So a couple more, and we now have the Renaissance present in good old China, which now, because this is here, it can now spread naturally, and it'll spread out like that. So this is, so if I was a one province miner with just this one province here, I could embrace the new institution instantaneously. This might work very well for something like, oh, you know, Ryokyu over here. Yeah, get some vassals and then, you know, embrace your institution, whatever. Yes. So, at this point, it's now able to spread naturally to the provinces nearby. So it will still take a few years before it get to any substantial coverage for a country as big as Ming. But if you strategically place your highly developed province next to one that's already well developed, you get a pretty good spread there. Also, when this is, gets embraced, that's more development that is now embraced that institution, which means you start getting closer to your 10% threshold to embrace it. If you'll give me a moment, I'm going to move to a different save game, which I've already made previously, and I will be back. And we're back. So this is the you know, later bit in the from the same save game. I saved copies and all that. So I'm not an Iron Man, obviously. Remember, this also does work in Iron Man. You just, you know, you can't cheat in some extra, you know, monarch points to pull it off. Anywho, so I've now let Renaissance spread to a couple of provinces here. Now I could just wait, and it'll actually get pretty good coverage. In fact, it's already starting to spread to Korea, because you know it can cross sea zones like that, which is pretty cool. And so, you know, Renaissance will be pretty quickly covering a large part of my empire here. But you still require at least 10%. Well, due to my strategic planning, I now have that first 10%. In fact, 10.2. At this point, it's like, okay, well, I could just enjoy the plus 9% penalties here, or I could just sort of debase my currency a few times. So for 6 corruption and a whole lot of monies and a whole bunch of monarch points, I can pretty much instantaneously embrace the Renaissance as Ming. And so, you know, even if I hadn't, cheated in a few monarch points there, I could be at this position in like 1465. That's only like typically about a plus 15 tech cost malice to my tech. And really, all I really sort of lost was maybe a tech relative to everybody else. You know, really I should be at tech level 5 here, but I'm at 4 because I spent a whole bunch of monarch points. So, but you know, if you wait a little bit longer, when it's like 1770s, 1780s, 1790s to sort of do this, then you're going to be sort of at the same tech as everybody else, but you're going to be, able to it'll make more, point-wise to spend the points to develop a province to get your institution early as a Far East nation. So that's kind of fantastic that is both possible and very, very smart. So I'd like to thank you very much for joining me on this little how-to video of sorts. Remember, the only thing this requires is common sense, unless for some reason this ability to increase stuff is unlocked in another DLC somehow. But I'm not familiar with that case if that is the case. I usually play with all of them on. Anyway, so thank you very much for joining me. This has been DrIzixs. If you enjoyed this, make sure to hit the like, subscribe dealios, and comment, and tell me what I screwed up and why I'm awful and whatever. And until next time, everybody, toodles. Woohoo!